Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 10:01. Amber, can you call roll for me, please?
Sure. Candy Cook.
Here.
Bill Stedham.
Here.
Mike Crowley.
Here.
Rick Albers.
Here.
Kara Bang.
Here.
Julie Jackson.
Here.
Cassie Lott.
Here.
Candy Linsman.
Here.
Ruben Pena.
Here.
Charles Porter.
Here.
Byron Underwood.
Here.
Kalia Youngblood.
Here.
Okay, everybody.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. And we have quite the stack of papers to work our way through. And I'm really interested to see how we put this all together. Who's snickering over here?
No snicker. Not at all.
Just knowing that it's gonna be a wild ride getting all. We're gonna look at all of the comments that came in, and we just passed around the extra comments that came through this morning. So housekeeping.
Housekeeping. Those that are attending virtually, just stay muted unless you would like to speak up. Raise your hand if you'd like to speak up, and then don't forget to take your hand down when you're finished. That's always what I forget. You also can just contribute to the conversation without raising your hand if easier, just whatever makes sense for you. Please keep, if you're on the committee, please keep your camera on so that you can fully participate in the meeting. And then in the room, our speaker is down here at the screen. So if you're at this end, you need to talk a little bit louder, and or mine, whichever you prefer. Probably talking louder is easiest. Have I missed anything? I think we're good.
We did it.
Yes.
All right. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? Were there any changes? This is easy.
Okay. Okay. Keep this pace.
All right, our next thing is on public or written comments, and we did have one.
Should be in your materials. I should also say that the only reason why I'm sitting in the Vanessa role is that she is participating virtually today. She's home recovering a little bit. So I am sitting in Vanessa's normal chair. She may not stay on the whole time. So that's why you're left with me.
We kind of like you, so it's okay.
I like y'all.
Okay, so agenda item number 5, we have it up on the screen. It was a comment from Hannah Sellers. Do we have any comments?
I can just speak to one thing real quickly. I know that, we can't discuss this as an agenda item because it is a
Hasn't been
comment.
here.
So if you wanted to move this for future discussion, you could do that. But I will just add, I believe this person is a consumer and not a license holder. And so they may not be privy to some information, which is the areas that this person believes need to be covered in pre-licensing courses and such. I believe we do. That's my opinion. I feel like we cover them in our Principles 1 and 2 courses, which we'll look at later today. We also fiduciary clearly is law agency and those types of things. So it may just be in informational,
Okay.
we might be able to just respond with information to this person.
Okay,
Or maybe that takes, I don't know, I'm not an attorney.
do we want to put it on the agenda for next time to discuss this?
I don't think it needs a whole lot of discussion. It's already covered.
It's already covered, that's,
Yeah.
So can we respond to her? Can somebody respond to her and?
Just say that it's not going to go on the agenda, but here's some information that may give you some peace of mind. Yes, we can do that.
Okay. Okay. Number 6 is Mike sitting behind me, Mike Malloy.
Morning, everyone. Mike Malloy, Director of Enforcement.
Not a whole lot of activity since last May. We issued one advisory letter on more of a technical issue with the provider having some issues giving access to a student for their testing. So they were able to get it rectified and the student was able to take their exam, so.
Okay, so now we go on to number 7, and this is our content requirements for qualifying real estate classes. We had comments brought in. This one wasn't as many as the other one, was it? I just have 2 comments, is that correct? Oh,
One's on the back, the one you gave us, you need it here. Take that one.
put it in my paperwork. Okay. Let's start a conversation on this. Do we have comments? Do we want to address our comments from other people? Okay. We had the one that stated that will have an adverse effect on small and micro businesses. And then, and he asked, has the economic impact statement? No, that's 8.
So this is for.
This is, yeah, no, I got it.
6-4.
There's 2 in the original materials and then 1 self-edited.
Okay, now I've got it.
It was hard getting.
It was trying to get all of these things in order. Okay, so we have Monty Wall commenting. And then we have Alex Stroud, and then we have Donna Pinion. Comments, discussion.
I would like to, sorry, I'm thinking and speaking at the same time. I do want to clarify that the rules that are before you here, these are actually just mostly cleanup. This is just
Yeah.
removing the language of the topics and subtopics from the rule, not eliminating the content. It's just changing it so that we defer directly to the course approval form. It makes it easier when you make changes to any content outlines that we can just reference the form as opposed to having all of that information in the rule. So I want to say that it's possible that there may have been some misunderstanding in some of the comments in that regard. Like people might have had the impression that we were actually pulling out content that we weren't necessarily pulling out. Primarily what we're doing here is just looking at, so that's a cleanup part, and then, but really what we're looking at is the content in the draft forms for property management and real estate brokerage.
Okay. So do you believe that the last comment from Donna Pinion is, I'm wondering if she's thinking we're pulling some of this stuff out of here?
Well, and Monty Wall is saying that the existing topics are relevant, so don't take them out. Is that where you're getting?
Yes.
Financing your business.
Same thing with Donna too, she thinks that we're moving the commercial part.
Remind me, did we agree we're gonna take some of the commercial out of?
I believe we did.
I thought we did.
The
Yeah.
draft forms do, the new drafts that went before the commission for proposal do remove some of the commercial, but they did not remove it in its entirety.
Okay.
Well, it also doesn't, specializations, isn't that in principles 1, where we look at specializations, that it does, I mean, you can then go into commercial or, property management on that.
Okay.
I made a note that way.
And that draft, if you look further down in the item 7, the draft of the course approval form has still 140 minutes of commercial leasing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not as much.
When we have comments like that, and this is just because this is one of the first times I've been on this piece of it, do we send them a response or do we We don't-
No, but we take notes so that if they circle back and say, whatever happened with this, we can say, oh, the committee made the following change, or the committee considered it, but they declined because.
She will.
Monty Wall?
No.
Or
Donna
Donna
Pinion,
Pinion.
she's
Okay.
a student of mine. Yes. All right, so we've reacted to that. Now I have to ask, because I'm. So is there something that we need to change on agenda item 7?
Only if the comments are compelling to you.
I wanted to make sure that that's what I was understanding. Does anybody feel that we need to make changes due to the comments that we've been provided?
I think they're all addressed in one other way. For example, Alex Stroud, that is already addressed. They may not be aware of his individual agent, but Trek does have a list of what would be considered an SAE course.
Oh, that's a good point, Mike. Yeah, thank you for.
Under
bringing that
renewal,
part up.
Yeah, so those things are already addressed other places. I don't see the need to create additional. And then the other comment, like Jennifer stated, that it may have appeared that we were moving content from these classes, but what we were doing, and we had to go back months, right, in previous discussions, is instead of having the content requirements in the rules as well as a form, the rules point to the form.
Right.
So staff here is not having to update everything twice. So I think we're well covered,
Isn't that why we did this?
yes.
Okay. Because we took out all of the rule and just have a place where you're not having to, we don't have to go through votes and everything to make the changes. Correct?
Well, if we did, and when we do make changes to the content, that will still have to go before.
Right,
But we wouldn't have to, it would just be the change to the form, not a change to the rule, right?
okay,
Am I saying that right? Okay, thanks.
okay. So at this point, I'm not hearing that we're changing anything.
No.
I can see, okay. Making sure.
I actually did write something down, sorry. Looking at the, whose comment was that, about financing your business, Monty Wall, and marketing best practices. And so under the brokerage course, isn't that where
That's where we usually talk about.
isn't that where that one is, the 0.64?
Mhm.
Right, okay. And so I did make some notes on there, so
Okay.
maybe when we get there.
All right, so first on property management though, are we making any changes? I'm hearing none.
Proceed as,
Proceed as planned. Okay, good. All right, what about the real estate brokerage, which is still item 7? Are we making any changes? Or do we feel that the information we came up with was appropriate?
This is where I made a couple of notes based on Monty Wall's
Okay.
comments. And so if you're looking at page 2 of 4 on the qualifying real estate course approval form, real estate brokerage, then on page 2, where it was discussed or brought to our attention, that general operating budget under managing risk,
Yes.
could that be moved to starting a brokerage business? Would it fit there better? And then also the financing of business that has been removed, would that be something that could be discussed there as well?
There is a section called practical business considerations where there is a topic, financial controls.
Right.
I don't know if that, would you interpret that to be the same thing? Or not exactly?
That's what I was thinking, but that's,
I thought that financial controls and would be, who's in charge of the money as opposed to borrowing money?
kind of a checks and balance kind of scenario.
Yeah, of the LLC or corporation or sole proprietorship, how are they, you know, who writes the checks or deposits and things like that? Or, and then, you know, bringing that up, Jennifer, if we, you know, maybe general operating budget would fit better under that topic. But the financing of business, I thought would, you know, if we didn't want to eliminate that, then starting a brokerage business might be a place to put that. And addressing money law concerns. And that's what I did. And then move other liability issues under managing risk. From where that.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting back to previous conversations, the financing of business, is this course intended to be a blueprint on how they are to actually open up a brokerage or how they maintain it once it's already an entity, right? And so financing a business, I feel like is something that we're really not in the business
We're
of
not.
putting in there.
No, that's right.
Now, I would agree that maybe the general operating budget, maybe move that to the other section, out of risk, but I wouldn't, I believe our intent in removing financing, was for the right reason. It was an area that those minutes are better used elsewhere.
It's out of the agent and broker's scope. We shouldn't be advising, we could have a short blip, because we have some tenants in here. You know, something that says, this is where you need to talk to your financial advisor, your CPA,
Right.
you know, your attorney. That's outside of, I don't think we should be even getting much into that because of the tax ramifications if we give them the wrong information and they take it as gospel. Well, it says in our book.
Right.
Anybody else? Everybody's quiet.
Well, so how would that impact the first three
So-
areas of starting a brokerage business?
So see where it says initial planning and those things, you could put in there, what's the other term? See, financial controls is making sure the fiduciary stuff is there,
Right.
but there's gotta be something over here. And I've watched too many agents and brokers get into trouble on this, and you can see the horror in their face when they realize that they've been given bad advice on setting up. And right here, and see where it says choosing a business structure, somehow they're losing the sight of the fact that if they're gonna put commissions into that LLC or that corporation, it has to be licensed. I think financing is in that part too, because the reason a lot of people are told to set up their LLC is for tax purposes. And we cover it in legal, I don't remember whether it's legal 1 or legal 2 or broker responsibility, somewhere. It's broker responsibility, I just taught it the other day. Could we put something into starting a brokerage business? It may be that financing, I don't like to call it financing though, can we call it something else? Financial considerations?
Instead of general operating budget?
No, I'm ignoring that one.
It was, going back to Monty Wall's comment about financing your business is a topic that we eliminated. And he's saying, why don't we bring that, he doesn't believe it should be eliminated. And then we just have to go back to our intent is why did we eliminate financing your business in the first place? Is that an area we should be discussing in this class?
I think it's important to be as clear as possible, because we aren't writing the content. And so every education provider is going to take this and write to it. And if we have concerns, or if you all have concerns about how some topic might be interpreted, think it's important that we're as clear as possible.
I think I'm chair, I'll be quiet, you guys comment. I think we need we need a title that says what we're trying to talk about. That you gotta do your financing appropriately, but it's not us that gives that advice.
So you wanna say something like consulting
Your
an
financing,
attorney and a financial advisor
yeah,
to
that
set up
would
your
be.
business?
Guys,
Would you leave that under managing risk? Because when we start consulting an attorney and a financial advisor for that purpose, we're managing the risk of the business. So could we actually take 10 minutes off the general operating budget and add an extra line in that section?
that might be a good place to put it.
Or leave it, because it's there, so general operating budget, and then, like you mentioned, just a separate line item and.
Right. So take general operating budget, make it 20 minutes and add a separate line item, 10 minutes for financing.
Or financing considerations.
Financing considerations, yeah.
To your point.
And that way we don't get into readjusting tons of minutes.
So you said drop general operating
To 20.
budget,
To 20 and under, and add financial considerations right underneath it.
Would you put it under or over?
Doesn't matter.
I think I would.
Wherever you want it.
Yeah.
Put it in the section.
Called management.
Over's fine.
Who's in control, okay.
You're in control.
No. No, I was talking about up there, I'm like Pavlov's dog, when it blips, it's like. All right, so is that the only change we're gonna make now? And we're leaving general operating budget where it is?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, do you want, and we have to have a motion for that, correct?
Yes, so, and you can do this in totality or in pieces. You need to have a motion as on all parts of what you're gonna do here. So if you want to, it'd be that you move to adopt with the following change, or that you move to
Okay.
recommend adoption with the following changes.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm on page 1 of 4 of the draft, and this is just a comment, not asking to change anything, but maybe add something, of course. Under the federal, state, and local laws, some of the titles that are mentioned here, it's an act, okay? And some of them also are act, but they don't have the acronym
Oh, I see what
attached
you're-
to it. And I think it's important that we attach that acronym to all of those that don't have it. For instance,
20, yeah.
you can take the
Yeah.
uniform residential landlord and
Where,
the uniform, I'm on page 1.
are you on
of
property
You're on
management or
I'm on
brokerage?
page 1, on page 7, I'm in item 7, agenda item 7, page 1 of 4.
Property management.
Property management, there's two of them.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
I'm
so-
getting to the other one after that. It's basically the same thing. We
Right, same
left
thing.
out
Oh, I
acronyms.
see it, yeah.
We left out acronyms, and some have the acronym and some don't. So if you're gonna make a motion to approve this, I'd like to have those acronyms added to.
Like ECOA.
Yes,
Right,
Yeah,
ADA, all of
ADA,
them.
right, all those. Because we learn by acronyms, we remember them mostly by acronyms before we remember the whole statement. Anyway, just wanted to make sure that we can put that in there as well.
Does that kind of change mean that it has to go back for proposal? Or is
To
that-
make acronyms consistent,
Yeah.
it's not a substantive change.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we are making, do we do it by each of these or all of it together?
It's whatever is simplest. I'm sitting here having this conversation with myself on whether or not the change you've made to the brokerage form, which essentially you're adding financing considerations to the managing risk category for 10 minutes. And you're reducing general operating budget from 30 minutes to 20 minutes,
Okay.
right? So I'm trying to decide whether or not that's a substantive change that would require re-proposal. What do you think, Melissa?
My favorite question. No, I think that's all right because we're doing this in response to comments that are made, and it allows for a little bit of that. Also, I don't think this is a significant substance shift. It seems more like we're moving it around and highlighting something else, right? So I think you're fine.
Okay. So I think if you wanted to do the motion together, it would be that you move to recommend adoption with 2 changes. Make the acronyms consistent and then add 10 minutes under managing risk for finance considerations, stealing from general operating budget of that. So if anyone would like to make that motion, you can say,
I so moved.
so there you go. We have a first and you have a second.
Did we all look horrified when you started saying
It was
all
a
of
little
it?
bit long. They need to vote. There's a first and a second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. All right. All right, now we gotta get to agenda date.
Comments.
Way to go. I'm getting there, kids. I'm getting there. Okay, now we are on to, I gotta make sure I say it right. Discussion possible action on education and sponsorship requirements for a sales agent license and education and experience requirements for a broker license, and we had several comments.
The majority being made.
The majority. Is Barbara saying something or she's
I think she might just be settling it.
Okay, okay. So let's start our discussion on adding this. This is our proposal.
Candy, can I interject a little bit?
Absolutely.
It is really helpful on our end when you walk through the comments to note what comment you are addressing.
Okay,
Because for our preambles, we have to go through all of this, so that's just helpful on our end. And I think it's helpful to folks that actually go back and listen to what happened with their comments.
yes. All right. So we have, and I'm on page 20 of 33, and we'll start off with Scott Hilton. Anybody got a comment? Scott feels we shouldn't do this.
Is there an answer to that? So he's saying, if somebody's already done their 90 hours, now we're saying they have to take the brokerage course. What is the staff response to that? As far as when this is adopted, how much lead time is there?
I don't think we have an answer to that immediately, other than there will be lead time and we can accommodate that. Would you say? I think that this is a non-issue.
I agree. I mean, I think there are ways that it could be written that could accommodate these individuals that might be caught in this place.
And it's just gonna be for a short period, correct?
Would have
But
to
I
be
think-
with like an adoption date.
Yeah,
It's
and
the effective date.
There you go.
Thank you.
And if I can add, as the licensing director, it's the effective date of the rule plays into when they renew. So it's also triggered by the renewal date, so when they go online to renew, not based on what month they expire, because they can renew 3 months early
Early.
and up to 6 months late, so it's the effective date of the rule based on when they submit the renewal.
Can I ask, on SAE, they can go up to 6 months after?
After the expiration date,
Okay.
yes. And unlike with CE, a license holder subject to SAE cannot renew until that education's been satisfied. There's no deferral of SAE.
Okay. I gotta get that term down. Okay, so this would be addressed when we actually come through and put in the information and put in the effective date, correct? Okay. Melissa Davis.
Well, his second comment,
Oh,
he had a second comment there. And essentially, we're gonna see the same comment repeated throughout others. And that is, isn't this something they get during legal one, legal two? Is this something that the broker should be doing anyways, et cetera? And I think to address that comment, it's more than just the course, it's making it a requirement they take it. It's also the content of the course is something that they did not get. We'll even see later on when folks mention in other comments that shouldn't they get this during licensing? Well, we all know there's only so much we can do in that area, which is what brought us to where we're at. And so I think to address that is it's not covered in those other courses. And we do feel that it's necessary that they get it within their first 2 years.
I think the information that we give them in pre-licensing is overwhelming. There's things, and I kind of tease in some of my classes. I said, I bet you have words that you had to know for the test that you think you're never going to use again. And I've laughed and I've said, you will use some of these words, with, I'm trying to think which one recently I had to pull out, whether it's eminent domain or it's and the brokerage stuff going on and what happens, well, why should I talk to my broker? I'm an independent contractor. That's one I get all the time, We're not getting it, we're not communicating it in the 180 hours. To the degree that they need to. To the degree that they need to know.
That's why we are in this position that we are today. If you go back 3 or so, I think it was 3 meetings ago, that's the reason that we shifted it this way, was in order to catch this more thoroughly post-licensing.
Right.
So that was the intent.
This is a really strange question, but is there a way to check how often 30-hour brokerage classes are taken? I would think we
Maybe.
Sorry. The only reason why I'm saying that is how many of them are actually getting a brokerage class in their first 2 years?
Oh, it's part of SAE.
Interesting question.
Some are, because that just happens to be maybe the one that was available when they went to do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, others, if they're using GRI, for example.
Absolutely.
They're getting it is one of the requirements. But there's a myriad of other classes that could be taken. And so,
I just am curious whether how many are actually having a brokerage class. I know that some people try to take the appraisal class and they stop and they don't finish it. So they go take something else. So it's kind of trying to keep track of those items.
Well, for the agents who are just starting, really does not know much, when the title or the topic says brokerage class, I'm not gonna be a broker right away. Why would I spend 30 hours to take this class? Unless someone teaching me or guiding me, letting me know that why you need this. Then otherwise, I would never take
Why
that.
would you take it?
But we're gonna make it a requirement, or at least that's our intent.
That's
is to
our
make it a
intent, is to
requirement,
make it a
So
requirement.
that we can clean up some of the relationship issues that are happening in the field today across our industry. In making sure that people know why they need to consult with their broker, and making sure that people know that their broker has a responsibility to them. Because I think a lot of that, don't think, we see, a lot of that is broken in the field.
Mhm.
You know,
Vice versa, there's a responsibility both ways.
that's correct.
Yeah, and that's where, right, if I'm not mistaken, if we go back into the minutes of previous meetings, that was the intent, to bring this up so that we could make sure that all license holders understand the responsibility that both license holders, whether they're brokers or sales agents, have to each other.
Right.
And the overwhelming amount of information that comes out of the 180 hours of qualifying education didn't allow us to stress that relationship or those responsibilities, which is why we put it as the third now required SAE class. Is that,
We're gonna see some of these comments, the next one specifically, it's that it's broker, this isn't a class to teach somebody how to be a broker, right? This is real estate brokerage. And that's a very distinct difference between training someone to open and run a brokerage. I think if they were to understand that, we wouldn't see these comments. And if we answer that, we know that difference between real estate brokerage and broker training, then we can get through these comments pretty quick.
Kalea, did you have your hand up?
Hi, everybody. I keep raising my hand, but then you guys answer it or say exactly what I was gonna say, so I keep taking my hand back down, so.
Who did?
Yeah, so good job, team. You guys are you're talking through all this stuff. I do have a question about GRI, but I say we'll get to that here in a minute, so I disregard, please.
All right, so have we addressed both comments on?
So no changes based on Mr. Hilton's comments. Okay, Melissa Davis.
Melissa Davis. I looked her up. She got licensed in July. She's taken 1 hour.
I feel like there might be a misunderstanding in this comment as well.
Yeah.
I feel like she might be interpreting this as adding an additional SAE course.
Yeah,
And so
and the thing is the one comment that caught me, why pile more information on us that we don't need yet? You absolutely need to understand how that brokerage works.
which is exactly what you did with the course, which is shift it from the business operations to the understanding of the
Right.
relational responsibilities.
Do we need to change anything?
Not based on her.
No,
No.
not based on those comments.
Okay. Jeremy Reed.
Maybe, I think Jeremy's got a point.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's point is, if I'm reading it correctly, that he's gonna be forced to take this course twice. And I know we addressed it, but I'm not sure, at least in my mind, I processed it all the way through. Reading his comment does seem to make some sense. And I don't know how that is addressed or can it be addressed in the requirements to have to take the brokerage course within 2 years of obtaining your broker's license. If we impose this.
Like, how does the timing work out?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, will there be a scenario where you have to take the same course a couple months apart?
yes?
Will there?
A couple months, so broker's 4 years.
Well, it'll be a
SAE is
couple
within
You
months.
can't, yeah, you can't, it isn't a couple months.
It's not gonna be a couple
But
months.
isn't it
But it could
within,
be 2 years.
within
Well,
2 years?
2 years.
It
Within
could be
2
2
years,
years, but
so I
not
gotta do
But
it.
it can't, if you're an SAE and you take it, you can't use that one because you still gotta get the next full 2 years in.
Right.
So the scenario that Jeremy mentioned of, within the next month or two will never happen.
But do we need to take it again would be the question.
Well, the same thing could be asked about broker responsibility every 2 years. You go 1 and 2 every 2 years.
But it's different content.
It
It's also a
is,
statutory requirement for the broker license.
right.
So there's not
Is
really any room.
that pressure 2 years later, because now I'm gonna be put in a position where I'm gonna be the responsible party.
We're gonna flip.
I'm gonna be the supervisor, so getting that information again, is that harmful 2 years later? Is it too much? I don't think so.
Well, don't you have to have the brokerage course within 1 year prior to?
2 years.
It's
2
no,
years.
it's
2
2
years.
So
Within
that's,
2 years prior to
Okay.
taking.
Within
so
2
that's
years.
for,
Yeah.
I was almost gonna say like, well, maybe it's 3 years, but I guess.
Well, if you have someone who is right at the end of their first renewal and they're within the last 30 days of their license, don't you laugh at me. I know, I hope you know I'm kidding. But right, I mean, you've never had anybody in your class that says, I expire on Tuesday, will this
Right.
count?
I had somebody do all 90 hours in 3 weeks.
3 weeks. And so if they're right at the end of that first 2 years and they only need 2 more years, then essentially they could take that class within almost a month of each other.
They could,
They
if
could.
they elected to.
They don't
Right.
have to.
Right? That would be their election. They just have
That's
to
not
take
us.
it before their broker license. So they could take it towards the tail end.
Yep.
One would argue if they waited till the last minute the first time, they may do that again.
They may,
Uh,
they just might.
Oh, no, I never had those.
But, you know, in a 30-hour class, your focus may change depending on why you're taking it. It may change from the responsibility between the parties to the development of a brokerage business, which both contents are there.
Well, you're gonna learn something new every time. You can take the same classes every day, you're still gonna learn.
We would hope.
Because right, I mean, if you're gonna become a broker, might as well be more responsible and learn something new.
Right, and to your point, they should be viewing that the next time they take it through a different lens.
Yep.
The same thing for those who take the legal update classes. As an agent, you're seeing it one way. As a broker, when you have to take it, you're likely seeing it from
Seeing it a different way.
Perspective.
Just out of
Point well
curiosity,
made, point well made.
just out of curiosity, how many times did you take brokerage?
About 6, 7 times.
Wow.
And I'm learning something new every day because,
That's why.
you know, it's different crowd, different people ask me different questions. Something that never brought up from the previous class. Oh, okay, I guess I missed that one too, you know, so.
That, I just happened to know that you'd taken it a few times. Okay, anything, nothing to change on Jeremy Reed? I'm proud he's doing it, yes. Melissa Haley, is there?
More comments.
There's
Oh,
more.
yes,
Lay at the top of that.
I had trouble with this too. The very beginning of the comment is, I think having agents learn about brokerage information and broker responsibility is huge. You got huge.
Oh, I got huge, okay, that's what.
Yeah.
So having agents learn about brokerage information and broker responsibility is huge. That's what you missed.
Thank you. I kept trying to see, can I see edges?
No way.
Colette,
I do have a question on this, and I just think it's worthy of us talking through with regards to GRI. I think we all can attest that GRI is a great course to take, especially in your first 2 years, especially that it does account for the SAE credit. And I think it would be a disservice for us to either have to, for it not to count, I guess I should say. It does have brokerage in it. I think that we would get a lot of pushback if somebody had to take GRI and a 30-hour brokerage course. So I think we need to consider, does GRI suffice? Are we affecting GRI with this rule? Are we trying to say that, if somebody takes GRI, they would also have to take the 30-hour brokerage course? Is that unfair? Those are some questions that sort of came up for me. as a provider of the GRI course, and I know that a lot of you teach it. I think that we would see some pushback if we affected GRI as an SAE credit.
GRI brokerage is approved as brokerage, 30-hour SAE brokerage class.
That's what I wanted to confirm. So if somebody took GRI, just want to confirm.
Am I right, Gregory?
Yes, GRI brokerage is a 30-hour approved SAE course, and it is approved under brokerage.
Okay, so we're checking that box. If somebody takes their GRI, this requirement is met.
Yes.
Okay.
But Texas Realtors would have to modify the course to accommodate the changes to the content. Is that what you're talking about, Kalea? So
Yeah,
when
I just want to.
the real estate brokerage course, when we first revised it way back when, Texas Realtors did modify their course. So right now, the 30-hour GRI brokerage course does satisfy an SAE requirement. If we make changes to the content, then.
Gregory,
Yeah.
we're doing it, aren't we?
Yeah, the change that you're considering as it relates to brokerage content, needing to know those because that course is actually up for renewal this year. So if you're going to make changes to the brokerage content, we would certainly like to be aware of those as soon as possible to be able to incorporate them into the recertification of the class.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that.
There's a clarification in here, just so that you guys understand. It says the GRI class does include 1 day, 8 hours of brokerage. No, it's 30, the GRI brokerage is 30 hours.
Right. GRI brokerage.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's not correct. Right.
Yeah, right. No, because we wrote it to match, they wrote it to match our requirements. So when we have to update it, we update it.
As will all education providers.
Everybody.
To update the course.
Sure.
I'm looking back at Matt also. All right, do we need to do anything?
Not for her comment.
Okay, Robert McElroy.
I think this is a misunderstanding of what the class is.
Yeah. This begs a comment, and I don't know whether it's something we could ask that the commission helps us with, and possibly something we can put out there, but I encourage everybody to get their broker's license. I was told that when I got my license in 1987, that I would get my broker's license 2 years later. I think it actually took me 2.5 or something like that to get it done. I think we have a misunderstanding about the term broker, whether you're a supervising broker or whether you're a broker. Because the one title that the public recognizes is broker. And so why aren't we raising the bar and encouraging people to go ahead and get this? And see, he thinks that the term broker is to supervise other agents. I don't think that that's necessarily there. Can we, I don't know that we need to change anything here, but I think it's a misconception that keeps popping up. Did I say that?
And in page 23, Chris Jones mentioned about that, like how everybody's saying.
Yeah, he said, he does say that later on, same comment, but just go down our path, we've already answered Robert McLeroy's comment with previous comments when we talked about Scott Hilton, Jeremy Reed, et cetera.
Okay. Okay, somebody did a deep sigh there. Just dreaming of Jane. Okay, Christy Perkins.
I like her comment.
I love her comment.
That was the goal.
Right.
Amber Brown.
And this is, we've already addressed this as a committee as well. Adding it to the pre-licensing would make it statutory, and would also, our whole having to stick with not making it harder to get into an industry, the governor's intent on that, and so, which is why we're going this direction. So that's the first part of her comment.
She goes off on a tangent towards the end of her comment.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about the rest.
Paragraph 4 doesn't make any sense to the comment.
I think maybe she's addressing the fact that the GRI addresses some of this. She's another GRI instructor. And we talk about business development and the questions to ask when you go, when you're talking to a broker. And I wonder if that comment doesn't go along with it.
I think it does. I think, reading what she wrote, it's if they knew the broker content in advance and they would have made different decisions, they would have chosen a different broker. Again, it's not something that we could just add to the pre-licensing.
And that seems to be something y'all considered and also discussed in broker responsibilities, catching sales agents early enough to be able to select a good, a broker who would support them.
Right. And it's not that couldn't be covered in pre-licensing, instructors can cover that, they can, give specific or specifics on how to choose a broker and all that. It isn't part of that curriculum and likely shouldn't be.
Okay.
Well, you also have principles 1 and 2 opening up on another agenda item.
Right. Maybe there.
All right, do we need to do anything with Amber?
No.
Sherry Barrett.
It's already been addressed, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Chris Jones. Didn't we talk about adding the 6 hour as a requirement? I was trying to look back through my notes. 6 hour broker
It's been talked
responsibility.
about even in the BRWG group, right?
Adding that for all CE, yes.
I think one of the common themes I've heard with that, though, is that it's an update course. And so for a new agent, it might be a little more difficult to consume the information, not having actually been in the industry yet.
On broker responsibility?
Requiring that for pre-licensing, if that's what you're.
No, not pre-licensing, I'm just thinking of another.
Oh, I see.
Instead of electives, I think that's what they're getting at here, is
Okay.
instead of electives, have everyone take the 6 hour broker responsibility course for their, but even for their first renewal, that's the issue, is that those electives, those things don't come into play until the second and subsequent renewals. So they still would be getting into the 4-year mark and beyond. It goes back to the intent of SAEs within the first 2 years, it's the first chance to get them that brokerage information. There are no electives in the first 2 years. It's 90 hours SAE, people want to go 2.
I think we cover it in some of our books, the brokerage part, and why you should work on getting your broker's license, and no, it's not for running a company. Here are the things, how it works. We can go past that with letting the broker responsibility work group take this on instead of us. Is that all right? Lori Selecki.
A little confusion there. I think she's thinking that it would no longer be a requirement when they were applying to be a broker.
Okay. Any comments?
I think she's just saying, why do we have to do this twice, which y'all have discussed.
We've all discussed that
We
already.
keep discussing it. That seems to be the common thread there. Okay, let me get to the next one. Is Donna Pena.
She's not wrong.
We've tried that.
Can I reflect on something, because it's probably can be tracked down? Is Sherry Barrett was under Don Opinion. You would. Sherry Barrett's comment kind of addresses this statement. They actually, she moved away from there. But that's because I know all of these people, sorry.
She isn't wrong in her comment, but.
She's not wrong in her
It
comment.
hasn't worked.
It hasn't, the concept has been something another thing that I've been proposing, and then a lot of people have taken it on. Said, okay, you guys brokers, you don't like what your agents are being taught in class, go get your instructor license and instruct, giving them CE so that they're coming to you rather than going to an online class or somewhere to get their education, that they're able to actually impart that information. I don't know. No comment on Donna?
No, and the last part of hers, there is a education enforcement division that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mike. Yeah, I was just gonna add, her comment, members of Trek should anonymously sit through some of these pre-licensing courses. That's part of our audit program in Senate phase. We've made it through, CE providers and administrative audits, and so.
Does that mean you'll finally come to my class?
I've been to one.
I know.
So anyway.
Okay, no comment? Go on to Raymond Martin
It's already covered, already Chris Jones.
and Chris Jones. Chris Jones is
Okay,
out
twice.
of our purview, isn't it? That's not
Yeah,
education.
That's the note that I put there, doesn't apply to
There's two.
Yeah.
us.
I think that, yeah, there's two more. James Easton.
Yeah, it's supplemental.
Not sure what the significant adverse effect on small and micro businesses would be.
It says, didn't he ask a question, has the economic impact statement been completed?
Does one need to be?
Does one need to be?
And maybe he's thinking that it's an additional requirement. We're not adding another 30 hours. We're just saying,
Dictating one, it should be.
yeah, we're just dictating which one of those 30 hours would be. I could see if we were saying, and now you have to pay for another course, in addition to what you were already having to do.
Kenny Kalea has her hand up also.
Kalea.
I think it's important that we just, for the record, for anybody that's listening, as well as our Commissioner Kestner's on this call today, that we reiterate the reason and intent behind this, and that is the broker agent responsibility on both sides. And so I think that, all of these comments, in addition to any sentiment surrounding, a mandated course, is such that the commission, as well as even at the start of last year, the intent has been around the conversation of broker responsibility, what's happening out in the field, what we're seeing come back to our table time and time again, and that this is in direct response to that. And so ensuring that this course, as well as any other mandated courses, that this is our efforts to ensure that the conversation is understood between the agent getting a broker, or paying their license under a broker, as well as the broker's responsibility, it being a two-way street. So I just for the record, want to make sure that this conversation and the deep dive that we're doing is for that reason and in direct response to that, and hopefully setting that effective date moving forward, we're setting the tone for years to come. That's all.
Yeah, well said.
Well said.
Haven't we addressed Amber's concern already? Isn't it the same Amber that commented
Yes.
earlier,
Right.
commented twice?
Commented twice.
Yes. All
I
right.
mean, it's about pre-licensing, but
It's just,
yeah.
but it was in the makeup of her first comment.
did we make any changes?
You did not?
Okay, so we're gonna go on to, agenda item number 9. And it's-
So on 8, if you would like to recommend that these move forward to adoption.
Oh, okay, I missed that one. Okay, so we need a motion,
So moved.
okay. Second? Kara, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we got it. Number 9.
Okay, this is an update regarding first-time pass rate data for 2, 4, and 6 years, as requested, and as it relates to course completion dates and discussion and possible action regarding frequency of course completion. And I'm gonna turn this over to Rebecca from my team, who has prepared some data for you all, and she will share that.
Amber, can I share?
Yeah, she's not sharing, see.
Command control. Okay. So as you may recall, over the last year, there were some comments of people being concerned about seeing really old course completion dates as they were going through students' education histories. So there was a question about prevalence and a question about, does this affect exam pass rates? And I know when you start going through the data one by one, each student needs to think, I found another one, this is a huge problem. And we actually wanted to get data and see. So we presented some data in January, and then Mr. Underwood suggested that we go and combine these data that we had previously presented into a single table. So in January, we started out looking at first attempts at the sales agent exam between November 1st, 2020 and October 31st, 2022. And we had looked at the age of the students' course completion dates, looking specifically for their oldest of their newest courses they've completed. So I'm sorry. If I get too far, please let me know.
Gymnastics for Monday.
If I get too far, please let me know.
No,
We'll bring
good.
it back to Jen and get back to the big picture, because this was
Totally good,
a
sorry.
methodological challenge you presented for us.
Yeah, I apologize, but I get it, all right.
And the reason it's a challenge is we have a lot of students that take courses and never take the exam. We enter those courses in our database. They come back 20 years later and take more courses. So I have to go through the database and find what's the most recent set of 6. So I have one just from last month where someone took a whole bunch of courses in 2003, but they took all 6 again in 2023. So I wouldn't want to include them in this old category.
Right.
And that's a challenge for us methodologically to do that. So we were able to pull together some trends in the data to show you. Looking specifically at the age of their oldest of their newest course completion dates. Did they complete all of their courses within 2 years before they first attempted the exam? Or is their oldest course 2 to 4 years before the exam, 4 to 6 years before the exam, 6 to 8 years before the exam, or 8 years or greater? So those are the same categories you'll see in every graphic. Now, so I combined everything into one table as you suggested. So we've got those who passed and those who failed in the same table. And we're going to look at these 2 columns in these last 2 columns in 2 separate graphics. The second to last is the total applicants per category. And that's looking at the prevalence. So as you'll see in this first category, almost 48,000 out of 52,000 students completed all of their 6 qualifying courses within 2 years of their exam date. So if you go onto the pie chart, you'll see that is 92% of the students.
That's pretty relevant.
Yeah, so almost everybody completes all of their courses within 2 years. So when we start talking about, we need to worry about these old courses, you're looking at these really small pieces of pie here. So, and you've got 2 to 4 years to see it's 5.5%, 4 to 6 years, it's about 1%, et cetera. They get really small. But then your question, when we said, let's put this all on one table, was let's look at each one of these pieces of pie and say, what are the exam pass rates in each one of these groups? So that's what the next graphic is. So you've got the same categories, moving left to right, the courses get progressively older. And I kept the bar charts in here just as a reminder. You see this gray, that's the total number of students who took exams in this less than 2 years category. 92% of the students, this huge number. So just as a reminder, as you get smaller and smaller numbers to
Teeny
move right.
tiny little,
Very, very little.
But you did want to look at the pass rates and say, does this affect the pass rate? So in this less than 2 years before the exam pass rates are about 59%. When you move to the next oldest age of course completion date, 2 to 4 years, the pass rates go down a little bit to 48%. 2 more years goes down a little bit more to 41%. And then they go back up a little bit.
and this is really funny.
To 43 and 53. But you'll see across the board, the pass rates hover between 40 and 60% down the middle. And there are these sort of diminishing returns. There are just fewer and fewer students that are affected
Sure.
once it gets older. But you all wanted to look at these data to see if this would help inform your discussion. I can try and answer questions about them. As I said, I think the prevalence question is just as important as the pass rate question in terms of if it's something you want to address.
This made me really happy, by the way. Thank you for that. Because before I got to the page, your, number 3 actually did my own.
Oh, okay.
And then went to page, the third one went rats. You already did that. So, but, it's an act of futility almost, isn't it, at that point?
I think the data speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I think it does.
It really does. And then if there's anything outside of this data, then it's not a state issue as a whole, and it's probably more local.
So when you say it speaks for itself, are you suggesting?
No action.
No
I think what
action.
I'm.
No
Yeah,
action.
sorry.
I just want to clarify.
No further action needed in this area.
Very serious face.
Oh, we got Matt over here.
I'm sorry, Matt Hernandez, I'm with ACEable. Something additionally that y'all may want to consider here is whether there's a higher incidence of complaints or enforcement actions against some of the people who have this long gap. I could imagine a situation where, rules change from time to time, and if they took this 5-6 years ago, the rules might not be exactly the same. So that may be something to consider.
I don't know that would fall within this committee's purview, but we could,
I can answer your question.
there you go.
Statistically, I did the report for the Broker Responsibility Working Group, and most people that get in trouble, they've been licensed from 6 to 8 years. It's not the people that are within the first 2 to 3 years. I think they're a little too scared, maybe. I don't know why, but
They
that's
just
where
got comfortable.
statistically, a lot of people, most people we punish is between 6 to years. They've had their license from 6 to 8 years.
Isn't it? Well, give them your other statistic about 1%.
Oh, less than 1% of people ever get a complaint filed against them, so.
So you're dealing with pretty small populations.
Mike, do you know how many grandfathered brokers are left?
6. I'm kidding, but it's small.
Oh, for
Are we
that
under
education,
1,000 now?
that education rule, it's got, I don't know. I
It
don't know
has,
if that's something we even tracked, did we?
I had it
Yeah,
2,000.
Denise probably. Y'all see Denise's fingers
Oh.
working?
Yeah.
Yeah, she would.
I know I've got a
Just a
couple.
few moments.
While she's looking that up, I appreciate all the hard work.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
awesome.
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This
Yeah.
really,
This is awesome, and it's very indicative, and it's something that we can address, out in the public. When people say, I should have to go take these classes over.
no, it answered my question completely. I appreciate you
Okay.
taking the time to do that.
This is what it looks like to have a PhD on staff.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're gonna make me go finish.
Oh,
All right, are we done with 9?
if you are.
Okay, Jen gets in the hot seat again for number 10.
Well, I think you all are kind of in the hot seat here. So in your materials, this is discussion and possible action to make recommendations to change, update, revise, edit the outlines for the Principles 1 and 2 courses. These courses were, I'm so sorry. I think ESAC last looked at them and made the recommendations that you have in this form, in these forms think it was 2014, when they were revised. And if you recall, we went from, prior to this, the only content requirements were those that are in the statute, which are maybe like 5 very broad-based topics. So for that reason, the ESAC then said, I think we need to look at these and make these more specific. And also with the intent to support, baseline foundation building for your pre-licensed students. So this is where they've been. This is what they've been for the last 9 years, pretty much. This is an opportunity for you all to look at the content and the topics and the subtopics and say, hey, I've been out in the field, I teach these courses, or what is relevant? Is there anything in here that's not relevant? Are there areas that need to be better supported? I don't know if have you all had a chance to look at them, and then kind of, with the knowledge of what is in the other pre-licensing courses, we've got a course dedicated to law of agency, a course dedicated to promulgated contract forms, finance. So to me, these 2 courses are the most foundational base building. These are the base building courses.
Covers it all.
May I ask what might be a very unpopular question? The intent behind putting all this together was to produce better agents, yes?
Yes.
Can we say that it did that?
Better's hard to qualify.
I know the data's old now because we're looking at it 9 years later and we don't keep stuff that long. But by breaking it down as small as we have in all these subject areas to produce that new agent.
I don't know, I think the only thing that we could find, and I'm making no promises because this would be really old data, but would be to, I know I make Rebecca so nervous. But that's why I say I'm not promising, I don't know. But if we could look at exam pass, like overall exam pass rates from, say, 2016 after the courses have been, but again, like did they actually take the new course or did they not take the new course? There are so many.
I know, that's.
Well, we know that we have a 1% complaint
Right,
rate. So 99% of our agents are doing things correct.
maybe we can.
Were they 9 years ago?
Right,
That's my question.
that's, yeah, okay.
And yes, I understand the complaint rate's based on someone filing a complaint, which probably should be a complaint for not filing a complaint. However, that's what we have to go with, right? You can't just say, okay, in my opinion, the agents are worse for not, I'm in a practitioner and I'm in a big market. For the better part of what we're dealing with, we have good agents. There are renegades out there that don't know what they're doing and that aren't supervised. But I don't know that that's a cause of this. That's a cause that we're trying to address by the 30-hour brokerage course, real estate brokerage. So, in answer to your question, that's the only reason I comment.
I ask, and the reason why I ask is we're about to put a bunch of work into this.
Yeah.
And before we do that, and we tell the providers that, hey, here's all the things that have to change based off of this new standard, is that fair to the providers? Is it necessary for the public? So I just wanted to take a step back first and say, maybe the data shows that the broader areas actually produce something different than they do now. It could have been much worse. Maybe the complaints were higher, and maybe the pass rate was lower before all of these changes. Maybe it's the opposite now, but it would be good to kind of have some of that, and I'm so sorry, Rebecca.
No,
And it may be something that's simple to do.
I think I got it. Well, could we do, because he talks about when most of the complaints come in, you did some of that study. Could we look at like 2014, 2015, 2016, how many complaints came in on the first 2 years? in the business, while they're in the business. See if there's a
Overall
difference.
complaints have increased.
Oh, they've
And
increased
I think
it.
it's because our license holder number of counts
Oh, our
has
pattern
increased,
is
so
just,
that's part of the reason. I
uh,
can give you year-to-year
you know,
rates.
statistics, we could look at 2014, 2015, 2016 complaints for first 2 years. Okay, because that puts they're the guys who just got licensed. Is there a difference from 2014 till when we changed this, when we upped this? Did the complaints go down for those people in those years?
I have a question. You know,
Yes.
I feel like maybe we're being a little reactionary to complaints, considering that complaints are about 1% of the overall licensees, if I heard that correctly from earlier. And I can't help but wonder if we take a more subjective look at this, especially coming from those of you that teach this course. When you're in the moment, when you're in the courses, what are the things that continue to bubble up as either students not understanding, or maybe we need to spend more time and effort and energy into a certain topic in the course curriculum? While I love good data, y'all know that, I just can't help but wonder if it's really more about the learning experience of the student and how that serves the public better, than worrying about the complaints off of these two courses. Just throwing it out there.
Well, Jen, weren't you also suggesting that they could review it and maybe say that this is just fine, not necessarily have to be huge changes that have to be implemented,
Which
but
is, yeah,
review it, are these still up to date?
which is, yeah, that's a great point, Rebecca, thank you. Yeah, just bringing these before you does not mean that, you are required to make substantive.
That's really what I was getting at.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, you could look at this and say,
Like, this is working.
I think they're great, no changes, but it's just an opportunity for you to look at them again, which is really, one of your obligations as this committee is to regularly review and revise, if necessary, curriculum.
All right.
They're really excited about a total rewrite.
I see that.
Yeah, did you see us all, our eyes are rolling back in our head. My question is do we do enough about property taxes in Texas? I think there's a misconception of how it's done, and that would be just revising what's in there. I think people don't understand.
So let's look at
And I was looking
the
to see where it
finance
is.
course.
Is it, finance, does finance have it?
Possibly. I mean, yeah, to some extent.
The real estate math has some of it in there.
Yep. But finance is a required course.
Yeah.
So just trying to stick with the courses that the
If
applicant
we already
is going to
cover it
have
there,
to-
then that's,
So are we gonna start with, agenda item 10, principles 1, go down the list of the subject areas that we're doing now?
if we need to, I think is what they're saying to us.
Or you can make a plan. I mean, if you each want to study this and come back with potential changes, if any.
Oh, where is that? Is that, oh yeah, there's the.
I actually like that idea rather than sitting around the table discussing and come back and say whether or not we need to make any changes when we compare this to the other courses that are on the table.
Well,
Because there's multiple courses that
Yes.
probably need change, not sure these two do.
and that actually you're bringing up another good point, which is there's not an expectation that you all make recommendations and we have a new draft for you and,
Yeah.
all of that happens today. This is just opening them up. In the past, it took many meetings,
Well, it's
Just
something
8
you were gonna
hours
say,
a
not
day.
10 minutes in a meeting.
No.
If we do this, if we take it away, could we have the approval forms for all 6 required classes so that we can Because we just said
Do you
it.
wanna look at them
That-
side by side,
side
open them
by
all
side.
up?
Because you just said it might be in finance. If I go to finance and it's there, then I'm going to stop looking.
Potentially,
But do
because
we
there's-
want, we
there's
don't
some
wanna open
things,
up all
yeah.
the courses, do we? Is there a schedule on how we look at the courses?
It's probably not easy to have them all open at once.
That's not what you were asking
No.
for. You were just saying, can I see the whole picture?
Can I see the whole picture? So I go, here I ran through and there's only a couple tax things in here and there's tax here. But you said, I think it might be in finance. If I could just flip to the form and go, oh, it's over here,
So what you're asking for is just
Just-
more time
just these.
to look at these
These
as
other
compared
things,
to the other
Yes.
pre-licensing courses.
And obviously keep in mind that if it's in principles, it's likely going to be in several other classes.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm thinking.
We want it to be
Further
in
detail
one
than
class.
those other
I
things.
haven't taught that in probably 10 years, so
Yeah.
I don't know what's,
Principles 1 and 2, in my opinion, is the overview.
this is the big overview and then we're gonna have other pieces, but it just
Yeah.
review these, but I kinda wanna see what's in the other ones just to make sure that we're not assuming it's over here.
Do you think we can send all those out?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All it is
So-
is paper.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you would like to see the course approval forms for the other pre-licensing courses, and we can definitely send those out to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then do we want to take time now and put it on the agenda for next time?
I would say put it on the agenda, but if we have comments, should we send those in advance of next meeting?
Can we do that?
It'd be part of the materials.
That would be good.
So if we take homework, we actually do it, don't we?
Yeah.
Do you want to take a vote on that?
That was unpopular.
Yeah, I could tell, but
I can make it so that I keep reminding you. Okay.
please do.
All right, is that what we want to do? Do we make a motion?
So you want to review, you want, well, one, we'll send out the other, of course, approval forms. You'll have the opportunity to review, you can submit comments at any time that will be discussed at the next meeting. And then we'll look at them, in a deeper way next meeting, put that on the agenda.
Should we put in that we'll have our comments back by such and such a date, or are we just gonna do it? Whatever.
Amber, when will you, how far in advance do you need comments for the materials? Is it like,
That's what I was thinking.
is like 2 weeks ahead enough?
Well, 3 weeks would be better,
Better.
yeah, because I gotta post 2 weeks in advance.
Okay. So whatever 3 weeks is ahead, what we'll do is we'll send out an email saying, here's the materials for you to look at. Here's the extra course details that you can have for context. We need your comments by X date. And then we'll go from there. And then we'll send them all out to y'all in the form of materials.
Okay.
Did I miss something?
Sounds right.
We're gonna send it
Is that
by
right?
general.council, I guess. We'll put it in the email.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Right, don't copy all.
Yeah, when you send your comments, we'll just have you send them to an email box so that you're not all talking to each other in a non-meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right, agenda item number 11. Do we need to add anything else on to next agenda? Is there anything else we want to bring up? I'm trying to ignore him so he doesn't give you more work.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Number 12, future meeting dates. I thought we had set this, so July 10th.
So the main question is, are you okay with these July 10th or October 2nd, or do we need to look for alternatives?
Those are good dates for me.
Those are good dates for
I
me.
think y'all are really,
October 2nd isn't good for me, but there's nothing that's good for me, so I'll make myself move. That didn't come out quite right, but
Okay, so sticking with those dates.
sticking with those dates. Any other discussion? We can adjourn at 11:26.
Well
Thank
done,
you.
Doc.
Great job.
I made it. I made it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, bye.
Was he signed in?